I'm Haley Taylor, and you're listening to the Rough Draft Diaries. We just started a new series on the Rough Draft Diaries where we're catching up with previous guests of the show. But we have also started our spring fundraiser. So instead of catching up with previous guests, for this pledge special, we're going to catch up with you, some of the listeners, to see why you listen and support the station. And we're going to start with one of the most important listeners of the station, at least for me. She's the one who really started my whole career. It's my mom. My mom has been an NPR listener all of my life, so I grew up listening to sounds like this. Or this. Or even this.
We're honest, we're sincere, and we tell it like it is.
And non-caring.
So yes, we're going to start by calling my mom first. Also, during a time of quarantine, it's just nice to call your family. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, cool. So you kind of started this whole thing because you got me onto NPR, but you're not just an original NPR listener, you're like an original WGTE listener because you really started listening for the classical music long before I became a classical host.
I love listening to WGTE. I have always loved listening to WGTE. I'm a classical music fan. It's become like an old friend to me. And so when I can tune in every day, I get this sense of like, oh, yes, this is home. This is familiar. This is going to satisfy that kind of sense of well-being, and being able to tune in and listen to something that's familiar is a real kind of balm for your day. BALM, not bomb, BOMB.
We gotcha.
I just really enjoy listening to something familiar that I know is going to be there. It helps to get through a quiet day.
Many of you have probably had your fair share of quiet days with the ongoing quarantine. But my mom isn't the only one who has been filling those quiet days with the radio.
There's comfort in familiarity. So it's really nice to be able to tune in and listen to, like, the Rough Draft Diaries and hear that, in some sense at least, the world is still going and people are still sharing stories and doing things that matter. And it's kind of like tuning in and being able to listen to a friend and even to just forget about what's going on. It can be nice to keep up with the news and everything, but it's also really nice to just be able to listen to a story or to listen to some music and kind of get lost in that and forget about the bad and the negative for a while.
It plays out both nationally and locally. Locally, a perfect example is your program, the Rough Draft Diaries. And so then it also impacts us, obviously, on the national level. Those great syndicated shows and things like All Things Considered and the other specialty programs like Mountain Stage. Come on, man, it just makes my life better.
I think public media is so important because it provides that quality, unbiased information, that education and entertainment to everyone of all ages. And it's commercial-free, it's ad-free, it's purely funded by us, the supporters and the viewers and the listeners. It's such a community thing that just comes together. The community gets together and donates, and we create this awesome public media together. And it's just what community is, I think, and public media is what community is.
That's Morgan, Larry, and Megan, all supporters of the station. You can join that community too by donating online and leaving a comment about why you love the station, why it's been important to you during this time of quarantine. My mom thinks that it's nice to know that you're not the only one.
Actually, I like hearing people who listen too. It kind of is like, oh, you listen, okay, somebody else gets the same kind of feeling that I do. So I like that.
Yeah. So go online or give us a call to support your public radio station, FM 91.